Do you have to go to school to become an opera singer? What's your background?
That's a good question. A lot of people, including myself, uh, I used to think this way, but a lot of people think that you have to go to a certain school or work with a certain teacher or do one specific thing to become an opera singer, or else you'll never make it in the world of opera. And I'm very much living proof that that is just a fallacy, absolutely untrue. Because I went to school for 2 years, and then I started out my operatic career singing in choirs and doing all sorts of things that many opera singers say that they would never do because it will be detrimental to your voice. But uh, one exceptional thing about my upbringing, though, is that I was bred to be a performer. Since I was born, my whole family has sung together, and we basically are the Hillbilly Von Trapps from the Ozarks in Missouri. And the interesting thing is that we none of us ever even dreamed about being opera singers in our area, really, because, and especially me, I didn't even know it was a thing until I was probably in my early 20s. I didn't know you could do it like as a job, because it's just something that my family would all sing together, and as I said, we'd sing folk and country and all manners of music, except for real serious classical singing. And we had opera sometimes in the house, and I'm actually named after an uncle of mine who died when I was about 1 year old, and it was his dream to be an opera singer. So I always had that in the back of my head. But the interesting thing about that question is that many people think that you have to go to a certain school in order to get the right opportunities, in order to be an opera singer, and then you're going to have that one competition or that one break or the one teacher that will make you famous and be an opera singer and have a career. And nothing could be further from the truth. Every single person in this profession of opera has their own specific story, and only a few people went the exact way that you're thinking, that they went to this school, they worked with this teacher, and now they have a very prominent opera career. That can happen for a couple of years, but then if people don't know how to make their career by themselves and figure out their own vocal and their own vocal problems and their own technical problems for acting and their own ways to promote themselves and figure out how to interact with people and all the other things that you have to do to become an opera singer as a profession, then they're just not going to be successful. And I can't tell you how many people that over the years, over the past, let's see, now I've been a professional opera singer, earning money from opera for 22 years now. And it's so interesting to me, because when I started out, I had that impression that, okay, I've got to study in New York, and I've got to have this kind of program, and I need this kind of teacher because this is the kind of singer that I want to be. Fortunately, I had all of the basics with my whole family, because, as I said, my whole family sings. My wife is an opera singer, my brother's an opera singer, and my sister's a Broadway singer. My parents were 45 years music teachers. So we had an exceptional upbringing about performing, but not necessarily opera. But the interesting thing about the approach that we took was it's just performing, and opera is just another aspect of performing. And it's definitely something that you have to put your whole effort and heart and soul into if you want to succeed. But there's no one teacher or one company or one role that's going to make you famous. It just doesn't happen like that. Because I personally, I went to school, as I say, for 2 years, and had a great teacher for those 2 years. But that's when I was transitioning, trying to become a tenor. And as my career has turned out, I ended up doing a lot of tenor, but the craziest tenor stuff that you can imagine. And I have always considered myself a baritone when I was younger, and still it took me into my 30s where I was finally like, all right, I guess I'm a tenor. But I always had in the back of my mind that I was a baritone that just kind of learned the smoke and mirrors approach to becoming a tenor. And some people still think that online. It's funny to see everyone has strong opinions, because I've seen major camps of people thinking, well, he's just a fake tenor. He's actually a baritone, just fake, 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 fake. And then I have other people that's like, oh, he's faking baritone. He's actually a tenor, and he's this kind of a tenor, and blah 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 blah. So my point is that you have to figure out your own way, and that's the most important thing for you to realize as a performer. No one will be able to give you a career. No one can do that for you. You have to figure out so much for yourself. And I took a very unconventional approach. I wanted to get into these major schools like Juilliard and Manhattan and AVA and get into the big programs, but it was just not possible. I auditioned for them and I didn't get in, and I did every competition under the sun, and I didn't get anywhere. I got past the first round in two different competitions, and that's it. And so many of my colleagues that when I was in my early 20s, they were already making it. They would win competition after competition, and you see them already getting Met contracts and singing on world stages like La Scala when they were in their early 20s. And at that time, I just quit school because I didn't have enough money to move to a bigger city like New York, where more opportunities could possibly be. But I decided to buckle down, and I moved back home with my parents, and I did construction work, and I did lawn care things. So I mowed lawns and things. But that's when I considered that's the most important time for me to develop as an artist. For a couple of years, I was super depressed, but singing is what helped me out of that depression. And so every day I would work and try to figure out what I was going to do with my life and how to become an opera singer living in the Midwest, where there's no real possibility of that. But then I would spend, anywhere from 4 to 8 hours after I was done every single day going through aria books and trying to figure out how to become a tenor, and going through all the technique of everything that I could find from the library. Because this is before really the internet revolution of downloading scores and books. And so I would go to the local university library and check out as many books as I could about technique and how to become a tenor. And then I would sit in the listening lab and listen to as many recordings as I could, and then I was able to afford some CDs and things. But honestly, for a couple of years, how I improved my own voice was, we had a tape recorder, and every single day I would record myself, 30 minutes to 60 minutes of me singing arias, and I would listen back to it and think, well, that was a good sound, that wasn't a good sound. Oh, okay. And so this is how I improved myself. But it took a good 10 years before I got anywhere, honestly. And I gave up everything to be in this profession. I really I went to Europe with a one-way ticket and just a little over $1,000 to my name, and it was crazy, absolutely crazy. When I look back at it, and I'm thinking, what was I thinking? And I tell people this like it's some other story, but that's actually how I got to be where I am now, because I had to face a lot of things that a lot of people didn't. I moved to a country where I didn't really know anybody. I learned German. I got into this choir. Fortunately, I had a few friends that I'd met that were actually from Spain but lived in Vienna, and they said I could live on their couch for a couple of weeks until I got into a choir or got into the university in Vienna. So it was a very scary time, but once I got into this choir, it was fantastic, because I was able to at least afford a student housing, because I was able to get into the conservatory in Vienna. And I basically, for 2.5 years, I was studying in Vienna, and it's in a conservatory that very few people know about, but it was actually invaluable to me because that's where I really learned repertoire and got to understand what it takes to be a professional singer, because I sang in this choir, and I heard some of the best voices in the world come through there, different tenors, and I got inspired because I could see what they were doing, and I would sing in the chorus with them. But definitely, you need the opportunities. But that didn't come until 6 years into me really digging into my career and trying to figure out what to do with it. So you can't have that path that a lot of people are actually saying that you're going to have. There's only a few people that did that, and they ended up, barely any of them are singing over the course of 20 years that started out with me. I mean, out of like 100 people that I started singing with, there's only about 3 or 4 people that have made a career out of it, and one is because our career of singing opera is one of the most strenuous on your relationships and your mental health of any profession you could possibly do, because you don't stay in one place for very long, and you can't create long lasting friendships with a lot of people, because I mean, it's possible, but if you're like me and have a career like me, you travel constantly. I'm in anywhere from 8 to 12 countries per year, and doing around 20 projects per year. So I see people occasionally that I've worked with before, but long-term friendships are very hard to come by in this profession. And fortunately, I have an amazing family that helps ground me. But for years, I was floating, not knowing what to do with myself, and my mental state was in the clouds, because most of the time I am basically another person. So if you take your job really seriously, like I do, you spend most of your days pondering the ideas and the questions that another character that you've been hired to sing, and you're thinking in another person's body and their actions, and you're basically living someone else's life if you're an artist, and which is bizarre, because you start to lose a sense of self for years if you do that. But fortunately, I have an amazing family that helped bring me back down to reality, and helps me focus on what really matters. But the biggest thing that people need to realize is that you have to find your own way. There's no magic bullet that will help you hit the target of your career, because it takes a long time to figure it out. But everyone is unique, and everyone is an individual in this profession, and everyone that I've come across has a different story. So if you're thinking that you have a school or a teacher that you have to do, or else you'll never make your career, it's just wrong. You have to find your own way, and if you have enough tenacity and enough belief in yourself, you can truly have one of the most gratifying and difficult, but ultimately meaningful careers that anyone could ever have. And I couldn't be more grateful for the career that I have and the life that I have, however crazy it is.